Reputation is what men and women think of us. Character is what God and angels know of us. What we obtain too cheap, we esteem too lightly. It is dearness only that gives everything its value. Those who want to reap the benefits of this great nation must bear the fatigue of supporting it. When men yield up the privilege of thinking, the last shadow of liberty quits the horizon. Reason obeys itself, and ignorance submits to whatever is dictated to it. It is not a God, just and good, but a devil, under the name of God, that the Bible describes. It is necessary to the happiness of man that he be mentally faithful to himself. Infidelity does not consist in believing, or in disbelieving, it consists in professing to believe what he does not believe. My mind is my own church. The instant formal government is abolished, society begins to act. A general association takes place, and common interest produces common security. The real man smiles in trouble, gathers strength from distress, and grows brave by reflection. Time makes more converts than reason. A long habit of not thinking a thing wrong gives it a superficial appearance of being right. When we are planning for posterity, we ought to remember that virtue is not hereditary. A thing moderately good is not so good as it ought to be. Moderation in temper is always a virtue, but moderation in principle is always a vice. The most formidable weapon against errors of every kind is reason. Human nature is not of itself vicious. There are two distinct classes of what are called thoughts, those that we produce in ourselves by reflection and the act of thinking, and those that bolt into the mind of their own accord. The harder the conflict, the more glorious the triumph. We have it in our power to begin the world over again. Society in every state is a blessing, but government, even in its best stage, is but a necessary evil, in its worst state an intolerable one. Of all the tyrannies that affect mankind, tyranny in religion is the worst. I prefer peace. But if trouble must come, let it come in my time, so that my children can live in peace. Those who expect to reap the blessings of freedom must, like men, undergo the fatigue of supporting it. Belief in a cruel God makes a cruel man. One good schoolmaster is of more use than 100 priests. He who is the author of a war lets loose the whole contagion of hell and opens a vein that bleeds a nation to death. To argue with a man who has renounced the use and authority of reason, and whose philosophy consists in holding humanity in contempt, is like administering medicine to the dead, or endeavoring to convert an atheist by scripture. He that would make his own liberty secure, must guard even his enemy from oppression, for if he violates this duty, he establishes a precedent that will reach to himself. I believe in the equality of man, and I believe that religious duties consist in doing justice, loving mercy, and endeavoring to make our fellow creatures happy. It is not a field of a few acres of ground, but a cause that we are defending, and whether we defeat the enemy in one battle, or by degrees, the consequences will be the same. The strength and power of despotism consists wholly in the fear of resistance. To say that any people are not fit for freedom is to make poverty their choice, and to say they had rather be loaded with taxes than not. But such is the irresistible nature of truth, that all it asks, and all it wants is the liberty of appearing. Government, even in its best state, is but a necessary evil, in its worst state, an intolerable one. An army of principles can penetrate where an army of soldiers cannot. Character is much easier kept than recovered. Titles are but nicknames, and every nickname is a title. Suspicion is the companion of mean souls, and the bane of all good society. Moderation in temper is always a virtue, but moderation in principle is always a vice. These are the times that try men's souls. It is an affront to treat falsehood with complaisance. It is error only, and not truth, that shrinks from inquiry. Any system of religion that has anything in it that shocks the mind of a child cannot be true. It is the direction and not the magnitude which is to be taken into consideration. There are matters in the Bible, said to be done by the express commandment of God, that are shocking to humanity and to every idea we have of moral justice. Any girl who proves her independence to everyone simply suffers from lack of attention. Give her flowers, make a surprise, help her cope with problems, and you will see her differently.